So let's talk about this guy, the LG 27GP850. Not to be confused with the GN850 from back in 2020 or the GL850 from back in 2019. This is LG's flagship 1440p high refresh rate monitor for the year of 2021, and in my opinion it strikes the perfect balance between price, refresh rate, motion clarity, color accuracy, and did I say price? It's right around 400 euros. So if you're looking for an easy recommendation for a great monitor that is high refresh rate, great for productivity, great for gaming at around 180 Hz with excellent overdrive options, this will be my recommendation. But if you're coming into this video using a 60 Hz monitor and are wondering if the jump from 144 to 180 is worth it, I mean, everything that we're going to be discussing is going to be tiny little nuances. So for you coming from 60 Hz, the difference will be so massive that you will not be able to tell much of a difference between a lot of the high refresh rate monitors. But if you are a little bit more experienced and are looking to upgrade maybe your old, like mine here on the side, your old 144 Hz, and are looking for if 240 Hz is an option, I have a lot to tell you about this guy at right around 400. Did I tell you it was just right around 400 euros? Yeah, let me tell you why. You see, this is my old and now second monitor, the Asus PG279Q. It's a 1440p at a maximum of 165 Hz when overclocked, and I have it since around 2015. And when it comes to responsiveness and particularly motion clarity, the difference between this and the LG is massive, particularly if you're playing a game that is fast-paced like Apex Legends. You can follow enemies much easier, and that has very little to do with the extra 15 Hz from 165 to 180, but much more to do with how fast and well tuned the LG panel feels. With the overdrive mode set to fast on the LG, there's very little to no ghosting and the image is miles clearer. You need to set it to the fastest mode to get the advertised 1 millisecond response time, but then there's a lot of artifacts and it's just not worth the trade-off, so I just stick to fast. You also get a pretty usable ultra low motion blur mode with some trade-offs, but with great results if motion clarity is the highest importance to you. But keep in mind that when that's enabled, you lose G-Sync and the monitor is locked to 200 nits of brightness and 165 Hz. I found myself not using the ULMB mode, but that could change in the future. I've used my old monitor as a comparison here, not only because I think it represents a good middle-of-the-road monitor for 2021 standards when it comes to resolution, refresh rate, and particularly motion clarity, but also because I think these days the standard is moving ever closer to 1440p, 240 Hz when it comes to the best resolution and refresh rate combo, and this LG monitor coming in at 1440p 180 Hz, I think it strikes the perfect balance between the two worlds, given that it's substantially smoother than 144 or 165 Hz, whilst also not being as difficult to drive as 240 Hz at 1440p, because that's something you always gotta consider. Can you actually push 240 frames per second in the game that you like playing, the competitive shooter that you like playing at 1440p resolution? Because if you can't, the benefits aren't as substantial as you might believe. Because you gotta remember, for 60 Hz you get a new frame every 16.67 milliseconds, you make the jump to 144 Hz, it's every 6.9 milliseconds, and then if you jump to 180 it's every 5.6 milliseconds, and to 240 is every 4.2 milliseconds. So the difference becomes much smaller the higher you go, so you gotta make sure you run the game at the correct frames per second so that you can maximize the benefit from every jump you make up. With all that talk about motion clarity, if you play a lot of competitive FPS games and are looking for a great monitor for that, this can be it for you. But if you also play more story-based, more immersive and graphically demanding games, and just you like to be immersed in that entire environment, this is a great option. So it kind of just navigates that fine line between being a competitive shooter monitor and also a graphics game monitor, and it almost threads that needle perfectly. Right out of the box, the monitor comes in a wide color gamut mode and provides much more saturated and vibrant colors than you're probably used to. And here is where my complaints start with it. Most content online is in what's called the sRGB color space, and out of the box this monitor tends to exaggerate everything, resulting in less than ideal color accuracy and not very accurate gamma and contrast. This is slightly mitigated if you use the factory calibrated calibrated sRGB mode, but then you lose all the benefits from the wider color gamut for games and HDR content. But there's a solution. I calibrated my monitor with one of these guys. It's an i1 Display Studio. It's a color calibrator that you can either buy for around 150 euros, but you can also rent it if you find a camera shop. They usually have great prices for you to rent one of these for a day, and that's as long as you're gonna need it. And after calibration, the monitor results improved substantially. I used a program called DisplayCal, and then I targeted the sRGB curve and tweaked the default profile. This resulted in the best of both worlds: truly saturated and vibrant colors when they're needed, and accurate sRGB for everything else. After calibration, the monitor covers 99.9% of the sRGB space and around 94% of DCI-P3, which is everything you could possibly need to make YouTube videos like these. One concern that I had with the monitor was its contrast being rated at around 800:1. This is definitely on the low end for IPS panels, but side by side with my PG279Q that I measured at around 1000:1, the difference isn't really substantial. Yes, monitors with a VA panel like the Samsung Odyssey line will achieve much deeper blacks, but the overall image here is great for all that I need, which includes not only PC games, but also playing games on my PS5, and thanks to the HDMI 2.0 port and the built-in downscaler, when you connect the PS5 to it, it can output full 4K to the monitor, which then is downscaled internally to a very crispy 1440p, and this was a major downside of my old monitor that was limited to HDMI 1.4, which with the PS5 turns out to be 1080p resolution. It also supports 120Hz at 1080p, so it truly is a great companion for console gaming, except for the HDR support that, even though it says HDR 400 certified, it's mostly useless, and you're better off just turning it off and leaving it off, since you simply do not have enough brightness and contrast on the panel to benefit from it. It has two ports in the back if you plug in the USB extension cable to your PC, and a headphone jack if you want to wire a pair of speakers to it and use the audio that comes through the HDMI cable. And the only thing that it lacks is that it doesn't have any speakers, but I mean, who actually enjoys monitor speakers anyway? Oh, and also the monitor stand is pretty decent with great adjustability, even if it looks a bit too gamerish with the red accents for my taste. So I just used the monitor with my arm, and you probably should do too, considering the amount of desk space that you claim back by doing so. In short, this LG 27GP850 will be my recommendation when it comes to a high refresh rate 1440p monitor for both work and play, and I think it will be my recommendation for a good while, because I don't think anything will come out in the near future that can rival it at around 400 euros. But yeah, but you're here, but it's absolutely nothing to do with gaming monitors, peripherals, anything related to technology even. You're just here for some feline action, and I'll surely and very gladly share with you. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoy, and you stick around. Consider subscribing, clicking the bell thingy if you enjoyed the video, and yeah, bye!